Probably one of the top 3 most important characters in Chainsaw Man has to be Makima. She is the reason Denji meets Power and Aki. She is the reason that Pochito even meets Denji in the first place, presumable. Yet at the end of the previous arc, she was killed off, seemingly for good if anything we know about devil reincarnation is true. So how can she return? How can she continue to influence the story from beyond the grave? Hello, I am the Anonymous Weeb and this is a video discussing how Makima might return to haunt Denji and the rest of the cast yet. The first thing I have to get out the way is, Makima isn't coming back physically, she won't be returning to the flesh and she won't be taking over Nayuta's body, so let's just cast those ideas aside, unless Fujimoto wants to backtrack on what was supposed to already be a confirmed fact. You're free to still have hope of such a thing, but in my honest option you're wasting your time and you should stop barking for a person who isn't coming back. Oh, and warning, this gets pretty dark. Now let's discuss how she will re-enter into the story. The most obvious way it can be done is with flashbacks, either from Denji, Kishibe, Konani or some other character who knew Makima personally. I could even see us perhaps getting a chapter or 2 of a flashback regarding Makima's upbringing as a devil, as Kishibe explained to us how if Nayuta got into the hands of the government she would end up just like Makima. So having a flashback to how Makima ended up being the woman we know her as in the current storyline would be interesting and give us more insight into where she got her ideology from. It could also give us a further understanding of just how long Makima has been around. Given the fact that she seems to have the ability to move between hell and earth, she could potentially be hundreds of years old or only be a few decades old at the most. What purpose would this serve beyond further characterizing a dead character? Makima very well could have set up several contingency plans in the case she failed, and through the use of flashbacks we can see how Makima accomplished them and give us a greater idea of the scope within which she was operating. And just on top of that, having one of the best antagonists in manga just fade away after the first arc seems like a shame, so adding the occasional flashback with her in it, even if she isn't the focus, would certainly be appreciated. In fact, the entire flashback might have very little to do with Makima but fills in some gaps in her history, and we the audience might be able to see how she manipulated others into following her or being destroyed by their own hubris. Also, for all of Makima's apparent goals to help humanity by removing some of the most dangerous fears we possess, we don't get to see her doing much in terms of trying to help the situation beyond her own major plan, so this could give us a greater display of Makima actually trying to help people. In fact, it could even show us how Makima first came across Pochita in his Chainsaw Man form and began to consider him as a hero of hell and someone she admires greatly, to the point she considers being eaten by him as an honor. Not only that, but she is the only one who remembered the devils who had been consumed by the Chainsaw Man, well, the only one confirmed to. I believe Darkness and Cosmos might remember them as well, but we don't know that for certain. Can you imagine a flashback with Pochita fighting the Nazi devil? Or the nuclear devil? Sounds pretty cool to me. For as much as the community loves Makima, or at least a certain part of it does, she did some really messed up things to get where she was and hurt a lot of people in the process. It wouldn't be too much of a stretch to say she traumatized quite a few of them. So, the next idea I have for how Makima might return to the story, although it wouldn't actually be Makima but just the idea of her, is that she could appear as a constant haunting presence, a nightmare, or a figment of someone's imagination. Now who do we know that was somewhat close to Makima, has reason to be afraid or even traumatized by her, and is most importantly alive? Yes, I am talking about Kobani. Honestly, she hasn't suffered nearly enough yet, so in the second part of the series she could be hallucinating Makima wherever she goes, always expecting her to come out and kill her. She could also be suffering from extreme night terrors which result in her losing sleep, a decay of her physical and mental health to the point she begins to completely crumble as a person. Too cruel? Oh, I'm only just getting started. Let's say that Makima is the form through which all of Kobani's insecurities manifest. Every slither of her anxiety takes the form of Makima whispering into her ear, telling her how she should have just died, how she is a failure who her parents sent off to die, how no one cares about her and how she is going to be abandoned by everyone, ending up as some street whore like her parents wanted. I can see Makima being the device through which we get to see Kobani's sanity continue to decay little by little, until she starts to isolate herself from her family and eventually being driven to near suicide. Only adding on to this fact would be that Denji is attending school, something she also wanted to do but was denied the chance by her own family. I can see that all being heaped onto her. An idea of how this could be used in story would be if Naruto is being looked after by Kobani while Denji is in school, only for her to start seeing Makima instead of Naruto, her own insecurities and lack of sleep eventually throwing her over the edge. And Denji comes home to find Kobani trying to strangle Naruto to death. Oh, the drama that would bring into the series is quite delicious. Makima being a manipulative bitch even from the grave and within someone's psyche fits her perfectly. Now what would the series be without a small little hope spot before the inevitable dark? Of course, Kobani would eventually go and get help for her issue, maybe even recover slightly until Naruto says something. An innocent little phrase which sets off a bunch of triggers inside of Kobani's head and boom, we have a tragic death on our hands. Whose death it would be, who can say? Only time would be able to tell us that. Oh, and if you think this is too dark for such a series, remember that Kobani was already almost forced into prostitution by her own parents and Denji had his mind ripped to pieces quite successfully by Makima. It's only fitting the other living character has the same done to them. Now this next one is less about Makima being present in the story in some way or another but rather how her absence is felt throughout the world of Chainsaw Man. As for all her heinous actions, she still had an important place in the world, and with her gone there is sure to be a power vacuum, one which could very well cause a serious amount of turf wars to suddenly go off. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the government, devils, devil hunters and everyone else scrambling to take Makima's point at the top of the totem pole. Devils which were formerly kept in check by Makima's overwhelming chokehold on the world would suddenly be able to make their own moves. Organizations with their own agendas for the world finally slinking out of the dark and into the light of the world. Governments using devils to gain an upper hand, as we have already seen America make use of the gun devil, so it's entirely possible that other countries might make use of their own devils, now that Makima, the greatest deterrent to the threat, being gone. That is all without considering the fact that Naruto, the new control devil, has become the key to reaching the peak of the world, and people are certainly going to come for her once they realize what she is. Denji is going to have his hands full dealing with assassins, kidnappers, school, raising Naruto and his job as a devil hunter. He is going to be juggling everything just like a real parent, only with a lot more murder and bloodshed on the side. An entire arc could deal with the fallout of Makima's disappearance, or it could be something which is in the background for the entire series, like with Makima being the control devil was for the first part and only coming to a head near the end with an all-out war going on. In fact, that would be very interesting if we can get glimpses of the coming war and we only realize the significance of them once the trigger has been pulled, giving everything we see up to that point a completely different meaning. Imagine this. Denji ends up going to hell to get power back. If he succeeds or not isn't important right now, but he ends up leaving Naruto in the hands of Kishibe, Kobani or some other new character, and he comes back to find them dead or a traitor to his cause, and now Naruto is being used to some ends, and now he has to step up to the plate as a father or elder brother and show everyone what it means to fear the chainsaw. Honestly, I feel like he is too popular right now. A bloody slaughter as he rampages through the world on a one-man or worse, a small army of true allies by his side on a one-sided butchering of those who dare to touch his daughter/little sister. For all the issues Denji has had, he has never been particularly neglectful or cruel, and in fact he has gone through hell literally to get back what he cares, and it would be a nice way to wrap up the Makima power vacuum with the monster she helped to create taking her seat at the top. The final idea I have for how Makima might return to the story is with her direct influence. Depending on how a devil's power works, her control might still be active within some people, just waiting for a trigger. For instance, imagine if she set it up so that there was an unconscious trigger within the minds of several people that should she ever disappear for a long enough period they would start to do something, maybe die off or kill themselves, or something worse. Similar to the power vacuum idea, the world is now thrown into disarray, but now we get to layer a level of mystery and mystique on top of it as Denji and the other characters are running around trying to figure out what is going on before it is too late and one of them meets the ferryman. Of course, the clock would constantly be ticking as the countdown to oblivion encroaches on us, and with people dying left and right the stakes are going to keep getting higher and higher as everyone we know, and love is suddenly at risk of becoming either a living bomb or a deadly sleeper agent. Oh, I have a marvelous idea. Rize returns and she actually manages despite all the odds to start getting into a relationship of some kind with Denji. We get an entire story arc with them fluffing it up every chance and providing us with our much needed dose of shipping fodder and teeth-rotting sweetness, and then at the end, Rize is the last person to have a trigger activate, and as she moves on to whatever goal Makima had in mind for her, she is trapped within her own mind, screaming out as her body acts out to continue Makima's ploy, breaking Denji down and breaking him down in a way that only a lover could manage. Bonus points if she dies permanently without her ever getting to explain herself, or Denji never finds out the truth and he is just left with yet another mental scar and a broken and shattered heart. Ha ha ha, that would certainly cause anyone who dares to ship someone in Fujimoto's manga again to be seriously on edge. But that is all I have to say about this subject. So I'd like to hear about what you have to say with regards to the subject. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, please remember to hit the like button. I am told it helps other people see it too. Subscribe if you're new and you want to see more videos like this one in the future. Ring the bell if you want to make sure you see them in a timely manner. And if you made it to this point, tell me what you think of my new avatar. I'm thinking about calling it the Anonymous Devil. Seems fitting given how my channel has ended up talking more and more about Chainsaw Man. If you could do all that, it would be wonderful, but most importantly make sure to have a wonderful day.